The Silent Power of Elizabeth I. How she ruled England without speaking. I am Elizabeth, daughter of Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn. They called me the Virgin Queen. But let me tell you what they didn't call me: predictable. For 45 years, I held the throne of England. And I did it not by speaking more than others, but by speaking less. You want to know my secret? Listen closely. When I was just 3 years old, my mother was beheaded. My father declared me illegitimate. I learned something that day that would save my life again and again. Words can kill you, but silence can save you. During my sister Mary's reign, they wanted me dead. Protestants begged me to speak against her Catholic rule. Catholics demanded I confess my supposed treasons. Everyone wanted my words. I gave them nothing. I smiled. I listened. I said only what was necessary. While others talked themselves to the scaffold, I stayed silent and stayed alive. When I became queen, my counselors demanded I marry immediately. Marry the Spanish king, they said. No, marry the French duke. No, marry this English lord or that foreign prince. Parliament sent delegations. Ambassadors filled my court. Everyone had an answer for me. But I had learned something they hadn't. The moment you speak, you lose options. The moment you decide, half your kingdom becomes your enemy. So I said nothing definitive. I smiled at the Spanish ambassador. I flirted with the French envoy. I considered the English suitors. Years passed. They kept asking. I kept not answering. And you know what happened? They all competed harder for my favor. They all gave me more concessions. They all stayed uncertain, and in their uncertainty, I found my power. My counselors thought I was indecisive. My critics called me a foolish woman who couldn't make up her mind. Let them think that. While they underestimated me, I was building the greatest intelligence network in Europe. While they gossiped about my marriage prospects, I was transforming England into a naval superpower. Here's what I learned, and what I'm telling you now. When you speak, you reveal yourself. When you promise, you bind yourself. When you declare, you limit yourself. But when you stay silent, you remain infinite in possibility. The Spanish Armada came to invade us in 1588. Everyone panicked. My advisors shouted different strategies at me. Some said negotiate. Some said flee to the countryside. Some said surrender before the slaughter begins. The noise was deafening. I listened to all of them. I said nothing at first. I let them exhaust their fears. Then, I spoke only once, with absolute clarity, at Tilbury. I know I have the body of a weak, feeble woman. But I have the heart and stomach of a king. One speech, perfectly timed. After weeks of silence, we destroyed the Armada. You see, most people think power comes from talking. They think if they speak louder, argue better, explain more, they'll win. They're wrong. The person who talks first usually loses. The person who reveals their position first gives away their leverage. The person who fills every silence with words is desperate. And desperation is weakness. I ruled men in an era when women weren't supposed to rule at all. How? Not by out-talking them. They were trained in rhetoric since childhood. Not by out-muscling them. I was a woman in a world of warriors. I ruled them by making them uncertain. By listening more than speaking. By watching everything and revealing nothing until the perfect moment. When my court expected rage, I stayed silent. When they expected mercy, I said nothing. When they thought they knew my mind, I proved them wrong with quietness. I became unpredictable. And unpredictable people are dangerous people. Dangerous people are respected people. In your workplace, when everyone is shouting their opinions. In a meeting, stay silent. Watch who speaks first. Watch who gets desperate to fill the quiet. Watch who reveals their weakness by talking too much. Then, when everyone has exhausted themselves, speak once. Clearly, briefly. You'll be the one they remember. You'll be the one they think is wise. In your relationships, when someone is angry with you and yelling, don't yell back. Stay silent. Let them exhaust their fury. Most arguments aren't won by the person who argues best. They're won by the person who stays calm while the other loses control. Your silence will either make them ashamed of their outburst, or reveal they're not worth your energy. Either way, you win. When negotiating anything, a salary, a price, a deal, say your number and then be quiet. The silence will be uncomfortable. They'll want to fill it. Let them. The first person who speaks after the offer usually loses. I watched ambassadors negotiate with me for years. The ones who couldn't bear silence always gave me more concessions. In social situations, when everyone is performing and talking about themselves, trying to impress, be the one who listens. Ask questions. Let others reveal themselves while you remain mysterious. People trust those who listen. They're drawn to those they can't quite figure out. I had suitors obsessed with me for decades. Not because I chased them, but because I remained an enigma. When you're facing a decision and everyone wants your answer immediately, delay. Say you need to think. Say you need more information. Say nothing definitive. Rushed decisions are usually wrong decisions. I was called hesitant. I was called slow. But I avoided the catastrophic mistakes that destroyed other monarchs, who acted too quickly on too little information. Here's what silence gives you: time. Time to think. Time to watch. Time to see who's trustworthy and who's not. Time to let your enemies reveal themselves. Time to let situations develop until the right path becomes clear. Silence also gives you power through mystery. The less you say, the less people can use against you. The less you promise, the less you can fail to deliver. The less you explain, the less you can be misunderstood. I kept foreign powers guessing about England's intentions for decades. That uncertainty protected us more than any army. And silence gives you authority. Leaders who constantly explain themselves seem defensive. Leaders who justify every decision seem insecure. But leaders who act with quiet confidence, who don't feel the need to fill every space with words, appear strong. Appear wise. Appear like they know something others don't. I'm not telling you to never speak. I'm telling you to speak strategically. I gave some of the greatest speeches in English history. But I gave them rarely. When I spoke, people listened. Because they knew my words were carefully chosen, not carelessly scattered. Most people today are drowning in noise. Social media, constant messages, everyone broadcasting their every thought. In this ocean of noise, silence is revolutionary. Being someone who doesn't need to share everything, who doesn't need to respond to everything, who doesn't need to prove themselves constantly, that's power. When someone insults you online, silence is strength. When someone tries to provoke you into an argument, silence is victory. When people gossip and try to drag you into drama, silence keeps you above it. They can't fight someone who won't engage. They can't defeat someone who won't react. I survived in a royal court full of intrigue, betrayal, and murder. Do you know how? By making myself unreadable. Ambassadors would meet with me and leave, frustrated because they couldn't tell what I was thinking. Good. That was exactly my intention. Your enemies can't predict you if you stay quiet. Your competitors can't outmaneuver you if they don't know your plans. Your critics can't attack you if you give them nothing to attack. Silence is armor. But here's the deeper truth. I learned over 45 years of ruling silence forces you to think. When you're not filling space with words, you're observing. You're analyzing. You're truly seeing what's happening around you instead of just reacting. Most people talk to avoid thinking. They explain to avoid understanding. They argue to avoid admitting they might be wrong. Silence strips away all those escapes. Silence forces clarity. Before I made any major decision, I withdrew into silence. I prayed. I thought. I let my mind work through all possibilities, without the distraction of others' voices. My counselors thought I was being emotional or feminine when I delayed. No, I was being thorough. And that thoroughness saved England again and again. In your life, before you make any important choice, give yourself silence. Turn off the phone. Leave the noise. Sit with your thoughts. The answer you arrive at in silence is usually wiser than the answer you reach in chaos. I also learned this: people reveal themselves to fill silence. In conversation, ask a question and then stay quiet. Don't rush to fill the pause. People become uncomfortable with silence, and they'll tell you far more than they intended. I learned secrets from ambassadors and lords, simply by asking a question and then waiting patiently while they nervously filled the quiet. Now, some will tell you silence is weakness. Some will say you need to speak up, assert yourself, make your voice heard. Sometimes that's true, but most of the time, those people are wrong. Most of the time, they're confusing noise with power. Real power doesn't announce itself. Real strength doesn't need to prove itself. Real wisdom knows when to speak and when to stay silent. I was a woman in a man's world. I had every reason to shout to be heard. Instead, I learned to make them lean in to listen. That's the difference. When you're always talking, people tune you out. When you speak rarely but meaningfully, people pay attention. Silence isn't emptiness. Silence is fullness. It's full of observation, full of thought, full of power being stored up for the moment you choose to release it.